Hello, everyone. I'm Dijon,
And I'm Aiara.
and welcome to the Mastercast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. As usual, we'll start with what media we're consuming. Aiara, you can start.
Alrighty. So I finished Trigun, like all of it this time. I know last time on the podcast I talked about finishing Stampede. I had finished all of Trigun, like maximum the movie, Badlands Rumble, the original manga, all of it, in one weekend, and it was the most insane and evil thing I've ever done, but I loved it so much, it's so good. I've also started my yearly Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood rewatch, with my girlfriend because 'cause I'm trying to get her to watch it because she really liked Trigun. I'm like, "Hey, if you like Trigun, you'll like Full Metal Alchemist." And she's never, like, interacted with it at all before, so I'm trying to indoctrinate her. That's yeah, been getting a lot more, like, popular shonen. Considering starting Bleach, I'm not sure yet.
Now you know how I feel about Bleach now.
Yep.
It's my it's my favorite of all time.
Mhm, mhm.
So I'll always support starting Bleach. And if you start Bleach, I'm gonna have to finish it because I only got like 90 chapters left or something like that, and that should
That's
be.
real.
And I and the thing is, when you talked about finishing Trigon, I was so upset because I was like, God damn it! I've been reading it for so long, and you finished it like immediately. But then I when
I
I
read fast.
but then when
I
I
read fast. It's bad.
yeah, because the thing is, I was like, I know I have stints of reading fast when I really get into something like Bleach, for example. When I read it recently, I
Mhm.
I'm almost done with it. And this is like 72 volume manga.
Right.
And I absolutely ran through it, but then got towards the end and was like, okay, I've read too much Bleach. I need to take a break.
Nah, with me, it's like if I'm really into it, I don't care how many volumes it has, I'm finishing it. There is no such thing. Although with Trigun, I did start to get burned out towards the end of like volume 11, but I was like, I have to finish it. I have to. I can't not. I'm too invested. Because if I come back, if like take a break from it now and don't finish it, I'm never going to finish it because I'm going to be like, it makes me so sad.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, for me, I've been watching Star Wars Rebels. Not too long ago, I finished up the third season. I'm on the fourth season, which is the last season. Yeah, Rebels is a good show. I think I talked about it before how the art style kind of like threw me like initially when I first started watching that show threw me off, and
Mhm.
it's still not the best, but once you get used to it, the story and the characters are just more than enough to. The art style isn't so bad that it's like I can't watch it.
Right.
It's just in comparison to the previous art style that the Star Wars cartoons had. Is I don't
Mhm.
like it as much.
That's real.
Yeah, I was watching. I watch all of Beef on Netflix, which is a A24 produced show, and it's about these two people who get in a rage accident that leads to them stalking each other and causing increasingly worse problems for the other. And yeah, it's 10 episodes long. It's so good. It's ridiculously good. I think it's like 35-minute episodes. It's so
Mm.
good. That stars Stephen Yeun and Ellison Wong, I think, or Ellie Wong,
Oh,
something like that.
interesting.
No, I think her character's name is Ellie, and the woman's name is Ellison Wong, the actress.
Got you.
But
That's funny. I love me some Steven Yeun, so I'll definitely be checking this out.
oh yes, yeah, Stephen Yeun's great. Yeah, I saw the D&D movie, and I saw Mario, but I'll talk about both of those later. I finished my second playthrough of Resident Evil 4. Was that New Game Plus? Yeah, my second playthrough was New Game Plus because I was confusing it with Dead Space because my second playthrough of Dead Space was um using only the plasma cutter.
Mhm.
And
Right, I remember you talking about that.
yeah, I'm gonna play Dead Space at least two more times so I could get all the trophies.
Right.
Because only have a few trophies left before 100%ing it. Hopefully they don't add more trophies. That would make me upset.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
God of War Ragnarok, the new game plus finally came out, so I started replaying that. But I didn't get
Mhm.
very far. I just got through like the beginning and then stopped playing it. Still playing Dead Island with my little brother. We're almost done. We're like 83% through the main story, and the Dead Island 2 comes out next Friday. So
Mm,
so tonight, me and him are probably gonna finish it. Uh,
cool.
Before I went to go see D&D, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. And we played some TMT Shredder's Revenge. It's a good game. Good beat 'em up.
Hmm.
It was just fun. So I started a new game, and what happens is at the end of the story mode, you unlock Casey Jones.
Mhm.
But when you start a new game, it gets rid of Casey Jones. And I was like, God damn it! Now I got to go through the entire thing again and unlock Casey Jones.
Dang.
But yeah, I have RE4 in here twice.
You're just that excited about it.
But yeah, it's a good game. It's a real good game. There's this I don't know what to call it, but I don't know. I want to say hack. I don't know. It's something that they added intentionally in the game where you can find a golden egg right before you get to this specific boss fight, or not right before you get to it, but somewhere near it. You find a golden egg, and then once you get to a boss fight, I saw it randomly on YouTube. So when I found a golden egg, I was like, "Oh, this is perfect." You throw the golden egg at the boss, and it takes like majority of its health. And then I threw the gold. This was my second playthrough. First playthrough, I had to that boss fight was annoying as hell. I kept dying, but this time I just threw a golden egg at it. It took like majority of its health, and then I shot it twice with the sniper rifle, and it was dead. And the boss was over. And I was like, thank God, because I hated that boss the first time.
That is crazy.
But yeah,
Is the golden egg hard to find, or like?
No, it's just part of one of the side quests.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's all I got for me. I've been consuming. Moving on to animation. Well, I guess this. I did realize I put this in animation, even though it's technically not. But live action Moana. So they're making a live action Moana. Why? Why? You don't. This is a movie that came out not that long ago.
It's Disney, you know.
But also,
they're...
why not just make a sequel? If you really want to bank on the popularity of Moana, just make another Moana.
Why? They're in a phase. They're in their live action phase right now. For better and for worse.
It's so weird. Stop this. Like, what is it? They're also making a live action Lilo Stitch, and they released who the actress playing. I can't remember her name. I haven't seen Lilo Stitch in a long time. But the older sister is just like this light skinned woman, and everybody's like, why are you doing this? Everybody knows she has dark skin. We've all seen the movie. Why are you making her light skin?
And then everyone's like, oh, but when they make Ariel black, it's not a problem. This is a whole different issue because the Little Mermaid is not about racial issues in Hawaii like Lilo and Stitch is.
Exactly. But yes, they need to get their shit together.
For real.
Just make good animated movies, because their animated movies have been starting to get boring. Okay, do better. All right, but yeah, we're just gonna get into the big one immediately since it's animation. The Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Yay!
So, it was a really fun and nostalgic movie, but the plot and writing was pretty thin, and I think it could have been stronger. It definitely rides on a bunch of Easter eggs that honestly a lot of young kids, even though it's definitely aggressively a kids movies, I feel like a lot of young kids wouldn't get a lot of the Easter eggs because they just haven't had as much experience with the franchise. But I say that if it wasn't a Mario movie, then it wouldn't be that good, and I think that says something, because obviously it is a Mario movie and you can't just like remove that, but I think that the story alone should stand as good by itself without the franchise that's being plastered over it, and that just isn't the case with this movie. Like I said, when I say it's aggressively kids movies, I mean like I feel like a lot of kids movies, like, you know, from like Pixar and DreamWorks, adults will enjoy the movie because of the story, and the movie will hold up very well years later because of the story. So when kids get older, they rewatch it and go, man, this movie's still good because the story just hits different. But this is gonna be one of those movies that I don't feel like it's gonna age very well.
Yeah, me neither.
But let's not talk all bad about this movie, because in the day, it was a good movie. It was an enjoyable movie. It's not a bad movie. Let me make that clear, because I realize I'm talking too much shit. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. I definitely recommend the movie. If you're expecting, you know, a really good story that you're used to seeing in other like kids movies, you're not going to get that, but you are going to get a lot of serotonin from just Mario, and you know, a bunch of references from Mario.
It's a good movie. It's just not a cinematic masterpiece, and you know what? That's okay, I think.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't know. I have this thing where I just don't like mediocrity.
Yeah, and that's real.
I'd rather have something be horrible or good. If it's in the middle, it makes me upset.
Especially for Nintendo, because it's like, come on now, y'all. You're Nintendo, one of the biggest entertainment franchises on this planet. You make a mediocre movie? It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I feel like they're definitely just, like I said, this kids movies. They were aiming towards kids because they knew that was the safest bet, and it's Mario.
Mhm.
So it's understandable why they did this. But I
I'm
hope
glad they took this route though and didn't try to make some like gritty, yeah, like gritty, adult-oriented Mario movie. I'm glad that we got what we got and not that, because that was the alternative in my head, and it probably would have been much, much worse.
why would they do that? I don't. That's not a thing that ever would interest Nintendo.
Yeah, but you never know. You know
And
how the movie
and
industry
yeah,
is.
but it's Nintendo. Nintendo 100% isn't going to let a, a production company control their vision.
Oh,
So
true, true.
I don't think that was ever on the table at all.
Okay, good. Just
Nintendo,
I don't know. It keeps me up at night thinking about it.
yeah, no, Nintendo is you know, pays too much close attention to their properties to let something like that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can get into a little bit of spoilers. But well, actually, before we get there, let's talk about the voice acting. The voice acting was pretty good.
Yeah.
And yes, that includes Chris Pratt. He wasn't great, but he did do a pretty good job, and he grew on me. He grew on me pretty quickly. He's not bad.
Mm.
Do I think it should have been someone else? Yes. it 100% should have been Chris Martinet because it's like he can do a not so aggressively Italian Mario voice. He's a voice actor after all, and he voices like majority of the Mario cast in the games. He knows how to do different voices. He could have. I'm sure Chris Martinet could have come up with a voice that felt like Mario, but not as like aggressively Italian.
Mm. Yeah, honestly. Because he did it for Mario's dad, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. Yeah.
So I was right technically with one of my theories, even though it didn't pan out the way I wanted to. So I had a theory that
You were
what if Mario's father in this was the original Mario, Jumpman, and uh and his mother was Pauline, and Cranky Kong was the original Donkey Kong, and they fought. But in this one, Chris Martinet just voices both Jumpman and Mario's dad, two separate characters, and Pauline is this in this, but she's like a newscaster or something like that. Um,
mm.
so it didn't go the exact way I wanted it to, but my theory was technically right.
Right.
But yeah, everybody else, all the other voice actors were really good. Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek was great, which I'm always so used to him just doing deep voices for characters that hearing him do Kamek's voice is hilarious.
Definitely.
Yeah, the only voice actor that I didn't like was Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong. It was so weird.
Yeah, it didn't fit. I don't know.
It did not fit the character. I thought it was going to be like an old man voice, but instead it was this weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it.
Felt very show busy to me.
It was strange. And I feel like I feel like it wasn't even on the actor. It was more like the voice director. Like what? Like you should have that man do something different.
Right.
I feel like he could have definitely done something different if they allowed him to.
Mm.
But okay, now let's get into the spoilers. The place where I feel like they could have done better in terms of story was I feel like they could have really leaned into Mario feeling like a failure to his father and that he's like dragging his brother down. They touch on it a
Right.
little bit and then they give you a big montage of just Easter eggs and then touch on it again with him and Donkey Kong feeling the same. And then again, it's a bunch of Easter eggs and then they touch on it again at the very end. And I'm like, I feel like every moment in this movie should have been building that up rather than, okay, story beat, bunch of Easter eggs, story beat, bunch of Easter eggs. I feel like they should have weaved the Easter eggs within the story rather than having them essentially happening one at a time, which is weird.
Right.
It's a movie, and I feel like I saw this tweet. I'm not sure if I can find it fast enough, but let me see if I can remember what it was. It was essentially
Okay.
this person saying something along the lines of like, people are like saying like you shouldn't expect this to be some cinematic masterpiece. It's Mario. It's a video game. It's it's based off Mario, which Mario never had a big story, and the person says like, yeah, but this isn't a video game anymore. Now it's a movie. It should have a better story.
Right.
If there was any place for you to expand on the story and write a better one, it's a movie.
Yeah.
So to use the excuse of, well, it's based off a video game that doesn't have a lot of story, I think it's stupid because this is the place to build that story.
Make it
And
better.
they did a decent
Not
job.
better.
Again, I want to say, I feel like I'm talking a lot of trash, but it's all right. I definitely want to go see it again. Um, I want to go see it with some friends though. It's not a movie
Mhm.
that I want to go see by myself 1,000 times, but
Right.
I definitely want to go see it with some friends. And the first time I wanted to go see it, I saw it with like damn near my whole family, and that was and that wasn't even the plan at first. I just ended up inviting my mother and my little brother, and then next thing you know, my other brothers are coming, and my mother's friend and his son is coming. I'm like, okay, and now everybody's here.
Like, who are you people? I went and saw it with my cousins. We have been planning this for months, and like, because my cousins are super big into Mario, and they were like, we have to go see it. We were supposed to go see Sonic together. They went and saw it without me because I'm a working adult with a job. It was a little hurt, so I was like, y'all are not going to see Mario without me. Period. That's just not happening. So we had to like fight in the group chat. It was this whole thing.
Yeah, I want to go see Sonic 2 with my brothers, and I was the only person like, despite being the oldest person there, I was the one, and you know, it's probably because I was the oldest person there. I was the one geeking out the most because I have the most experience with Sonic out of all of them. like,
Right.
like when Sonic, in one scene in Sonic 2, when they're in that like Russian bar or whatever, um,
Mm.
and he like does the Sonic Adventure 2 cover pose,
Right.
and I was just pointing at the screen, going, "Oh my god, he did the thing!"
He did the thing.
My brothers did, they had no idea what I was talking about. I literally pulled up my phone, looked it up, and showed it to him. I was like, "Look at this! He did that thing."
That is so real of you.
I felt like just a little kid watching Sonic X.
Ah, Sonic X, man. I should rewatch that sometime soon because it's on Netflix. Like,
That makes sense because they got that other new Sonic cartoon that's on Netflix.
mm,
But yeah, there are several places they can go from here, specifically, you know, within the Mario world, but also other Nintendo movies. With Mario, you know, there was I was gonna say Easter egg, but it's not an Easter egg. It was a literal egg. But in the end credit scenes, they
right.
showed, you know, Yoshi. It was Yoshi's egg, and then you know Yoshi coming out of the egg, and
Hmm.
you know he made his little sound. So I feel like the next movie might have something to do with Yoshi's Island. I feel like that makes sense. But outside of that, I feel like they could also do a Luigi's Mansion movie for sure.
Oh yeah.
Um, what else? They're definitely gonna do a Donkey Kong movie. There's no way they're not gonna do a Donkey Kong movie.
Right.
Um, and I don't know. Maybe they give Princess Peach her own movie.
I hope so because I remember reading a thing where it was like the Peach in the Mario movie was how Miyamoto wanted Peach to be all along, like this strong, independent, like girl boss character. I forgot where I read that at, but I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I saw that headline in an article. And I'm gonna be real with you. I don't believe him. I think he's just saying that because you know, the world's a changing, and
Right.
it's women in video games aren't just your princess is in another castle anymore. So they
Right.
actively went out of their way to make her a strong woman, and I don't think that was always his idea.
Yeah.
I think that he's just saying that for the sake of advertising.
Absolutely.
I,
That's not to say that it's a bad thing.
no,
Her being strong. Yeah,
it was
yeah,
just
yeah,
a different time.
yeah.
But yeah, in terms of other Nintendo properties, though, I've said it 1,000 times. Number one for me is Metroid. I need me a
Of course,
Metroid
of
movie.
course.
I need a Metroid movie so bad. And like I said, if it was up to me, it would be directed by Kenny Tartakovsky. You know, the guy that does Dexter's Lab, Samurai Jack, Primal.
Mm,
It would be fantastic. He's good at working with like silent or mostly silent and solitary characters, as well as creating, telling the story through the atmosphere and the music and the sound, design. Um, and without using a lot of dialogue, and that's what Metroid is really for the most part.
right.
So I feel like he would be great for that. But there's some other ones I think would be dope though, or like of course you gotta have Kirby. I think,
Of course.
but I feel like three that might be, well, maybe only two of them would be two that people wouldn't expect. I feel like people would expect a Star Fox movie, but
Mm,
I think F Zero and Punch Out would make some really good movies.
a Punch-Out movie would be great,
Yeah,
especially because it's like you could frame it like Rocky. It would be
exactly.
fun.
I love me some boxing movies.
Right.
And Punch Out would be real good. It would be great. It would essentially be like a sports anime, and that would be perfect. Um, but F Zero
Yeah,
would be interesting too. F Zero had like an anime a long time ago.
it did.
It did,
Oh wow.
and yeah, I feel like F Zero could be very interesting because from what I understand of the lore is that like, um, Captain Falcon is a mantle. So like
Mhm.
the Captain Falcon in Smash Bros. And an F Zero franchise isn't the first Captain Falcon, and
Right.
probably not the last one either. So they could play with that. That would be interesting.
They could. That would be really interesting.
But yeah, Star Fox. I feel like Star Fox would be like a cartoon Top Gun.
Yeah, which would be fun.
Yeah, I like Top Gun too. These old 80s action movies that were made for a mostly man audience. You gotta love them.
Right.
But yeah, any are there any franchises you think would make good movies other than the ones I named, or any of the ones that I named you want specifically? I guess I didn't say Zelda, did I?
I don't want a Zelda movie. I'm gonna be
What?
so real. I don't want a Zelda movie. I don't. I feel like
That's
Zelda
crazy.
narrative doesn't lend well to a movie format, and that's mostly because of the timeline and how jacked up it is. I need Nintendo to fix the Zelda timeline first before they start branching out narratively anywhere else. The it's outdated because it was released in Hyrule Historia, which came out in what, 2017? Probably before that. Uh, and didn't account for future games being made, blah blah blah. But they couldn't have seen that. But then also it just doesn't make sense. Like it's a mess, and I need them to fix the lore and make it make sense before they worry about adapting it into anything.
Yeah, I think you're asking for something that isn't going to happen because the reality is there was no timeline until they randomly decided that there should be. Zelda was
Yeah,
never meant to be a thing where there's a cohesive timeline. They were just it's similar to like Final Fantasy where each game is different. Like every
right,
single game is a different story. And there are a few games like, the GameCube games that were connected. And the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But other than that, a lot of the games don't connect and they were never really meant to. And
right.
they found a way to loosely connect them, but for the most part the timeline isn't something that can be fixed because it was never meant to be that way in the first place. So
Yeah,
there's literally, I don't think there's anything they can do about that other than if they want to going forward, they can try and make the timeline work. But I don't think they need to. I think they should just
yeah,
continue making games and just use the excuse of like their reincarnation. So like there's like centuries in between every game or something like that, or like there are different dimensions. I feel like that's just an easy like
yeah. It's
fix.
definitely. I just like. I wish they would pick. I've noticed this recently with like the instead of modern Zeldas, it's like sometimes it's like a reincarnation thing. It's like, oh, this is hundreds of years after XYZ happened, or it's like, oh, this is this place, and it's like pick one. Either they're reincarnations or this is directly after. Like you're confusing me. Mostly Skyward Sword is my issue with this because like they set Skyward Sword up to be a prequel to like everything that had come prior, but like I don't know. I love Skyward Sword. I'm probably one of the few people that do. People are not rocking with Skyward Sword, but I wish it made sense. Like I wish they would have went somewhere else with it narratively. It's a shame that game gets shafted by not. It's the black sheep of the Zelda family, and it doesn't deserve that because it's actually a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I think that they could use the movies to make a better timeline. But at the end of the day, I really don't think it matters. I
Yeah,
think that Zelda's timeline just doesn't matter as long as the individual games are good. It doesn't matter how they connect because the connections don't really matter for the most part.
yeah.
Um, and with
How's
the
game theory gonna make their theories if there's no timeline? I mean that sarcastically, of course.
but with a movie, they could if they wanted to make a better timeline.
Yeah, make one that makes sense.
Because yeah, like I said with Mario, the opportunity they have with Mario is to actually give it a story that makes sense and that's good, and they could do the same thing with Zelda.
Right.
But yeah, moving on to comics. You been reading anything lately other than Trigun?
Um, let me think. Like I said, thinking about starting Bleach. Also thinking about starting Berserk, but I'm a little afraid to. Because like I know that I feel like it's just very intimidating to me. Oh, Soul Eater. Started reading the manga for Soul Eater. Not very far in, but I figured because I've tried to watch the anime. Like I grew up on the anime, but I could never finish it. I don't know. It's not that it's bad. It's just like my attention span is very short. So I started the manga. Loving it so far. Other than that though, no, I haven't been reading much besides Trigun.
Yeah, I'm still in the middle of reading the first volume of Soul Eater, perfect
Mm,
edition that I got a while back. I think around like Christmas or something. I don't remember. But above that, I have these two books I got recently. Apple Black Volumes One and Two. These are the second editions of them with like extra pages and like redrawn art.
mm,
It's by this publisher called Saturday AM, which is like a is a black owned publisher that makes like diverse manga. And Apple
ooh,
Black is easily their like most popular. Like Apple Black's is like their Dragon Ball. And
right.
I've been was it White Manga is the artist and writer. And he has a YouTube channel that I watched for years before I eventually, his manga was released and I eventually bought it. And yeah, I have the original two volumes, but
Oh
I
wow.
was like, you know what? Let me support black business and get the second two. And I pre-ordered the third and fourth one. And so I need to, I would say reread, but there's a bunch of new stuff in it too. So just read it, I guess, for the first time. These new editions of the first two volumes before the
Mm,
third one comes in, which is going to be in early May. So yeah, and then the fourth volume comes out in November. Yeah, Apple Black is
nice.
good. It's about magic, and
Mm,
it has a very interesting magic system where
I love
people
it.
have wands, but wands can be almost anything. They're usually physical items, but they're not just regular wands like Harry Potter wands type stuff. It's very interesting.
Got you. Yeah, there's another manga that I really like. It hasn't it updates monthly, so I don't it's a while between chapters, but it's called Witch Hat Atelier, and the magic system in there is super interesting. It's sigil based, so they have to draw the magic, and like
The,
how you draw the magic matters. It's like
yeah,
it's not like every
it's
sigil is just how it is, if that makes sense.
yeah. The ink is magical.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not the ink. It's more the I mean, the ink does have magical properties, but it's more the drawing itself is the magical portion,
yeah,
and the
but
caster.
you can't just like in Witch Hat. You can't just draw with regular ink and make magic. Like it's a very specific type of ink that makes the magic.
For sure.
And anybody can do magic. They just need to have access to the ink.
Yep.
Yeah. I started reading that a while back. I'm still in the. I don't remember which volume I have right now that I have been in the middle reading. It might be four. It might be five. I can't remember.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I'm all caught up, and the stuff you should like the stuff that's happening right now is crazy. Also, the anime adaptation is coming out soon, which is really exciting.
that's cool.
Yeah.
But so DC uh and Ruby, they have had a crossover before, and they actually animated the crossover that they had before, but they have a new one. And it's really good. The first one didn't interest me, but this one is a lot more interesting to me. But I gotta be real. At the very end of the first issue, Team Ruby annoyed me to no ends. They did their normal Team Ruby stuff, which is just be annoying teenagers that won't listen to the much more experienced Batman who's been doing this for over a decade, and it made me so mad because they just started. They do this in the show too, and it's very annoying where they just they don't listen to anybody. And I love Ruby. I'm I think the first season finally ended, so I might um subscribe to Crunchyroll and watch it. The only reason I didn't
Mhm.
watch it is because it's on Crunchyroll now and not on Rooster Teeth's website anymore, which sucks.
Right.
It
Yeah.
makes it harder to watch because I would have to pay money, whereas I could watch it with ads on their website before they move to Crunchyroll.
Right.
But good for them for being on Crunchyroll, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'll watch it eventually. But the Team Ruby can be real annoying sometimes because they just suck sometimes and they don't listen to anybody. And I feel like they don't learn anything. And it could be real annoying. But yeah, they just annoyed me at the end of that volume or issue. But I finished up Future State Justice League. I had read the first issue. It's only two issues. I had read it literally like over a year ago, and then I was like, let me actually finish this. It's been a while. It's only two issues. And Future State was essentially, I think I talked about it before when I was talking about Future State, Superwoman, and essentially was DC doing this thing where they, showed a brief look into the future and played around with some ideas to see what they might bring into the like current day timeline or whatever. And Future State Justice League, it's mostly the same, Leaguers, Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, all that, but it's not Clark Kent or Batman. Oh, excuse me, Bruce Wayne. It's Jonathan Kent, who's Superman's son. It's what's his name? Jace Fox, which is Lucius Fox, the person that makes all of Batman's equipment, son or one of his sons. Um, and the third Wonder Girl is Wonder Woman now, and all that jazz. And Yeah, so they have a rule where they don't share their secret identities with each other or spend time together outside of missions. And that eventually comes back to bite them because some Martians, which in DC universe they can shapeshift and have telepathic abilities, so
Mm.
they're OP for no reason.
Yeah.
They essentially like take over their identities and they can't tell who is who because they don't know anything about each other. Um, yeah. Also trying to catch up on Aquaman. Um, Aquaman, the original Arthur Curry, is working with Black Manta, his archenemy, one of the biggest haters in comic book history. Like when I tell you, this man is such a big hater that at one point he Aquaman. I don't know if he was actually dead or he just thought he was dead. Black Manta retired. He went off onto some island and was fishing and selling fish. And then I don't know if he heard it on the radio or he saw it on television on the news, but he heard that Aquaman was alive, and immediately went back to his old ways. Killed every single person in his shop. Then walked into the ocean, and then walked back out of the ocean with his costume on. Su- Supreme hater.
That is prime hater activity, and I love it.
This man wakes up early in the morning so he has extra time to be a hater. That's the type of person Black Manta is. He hates Aquaman
Uh,
with every fiber of his being. He's only he's only like second, maybe third biggest hater in the DC universe. So Reverse Flash, let me tell you what, we're gonna talk about that another time. First Flash is the biggest hater in history. I'm talking multiversal time travel levels of hate.
that
This man
That's
reversed
hard.
Flash one time, ran back in time just to push Barry Allen down the stairs as a kid.
Wow.
That's how much he hates this man.
Wow.
Absolutely no respect. But anyway,
None.
so he's working with Black Manta, who is also the father of Jackson Hyde, who's the second Aquaman. And Jackson Hyde's also under a lot of stress because he's just taking up the mantle of Aquaman, and he's just going through a lot. And then his mother almost died, and then he just found out that his mentor is working with his arch enemy, so he's just all types of confused.
Yeah.
Um, Superman Birthright might be my favorite Superman comic that I've read so far. It is so good. It details the origin of Superman, and it's probably the best version of his origin story I've ever read. Um, it starts off with him, like, before he becomes Superman, and he's just off. He graduated college not too long ago, and he's off and doing journalism across the world, and it's just very fun. And they detail how he kind of like becomes the version of Clark Kent that he uses to kind of like hide his identity as Superman,
Mm.
where he goes and like starts reading up about, like, his parents help him because they know he's Superman, and his mother tells him like you gotta learn how to act because you gotta pretend like you're a completely different person. You gotta be this meek, nerdy journalist versus Superman, who is essentially in a lot of ways his personality is probably like a combination of both of them. But now he has to amp up his kind of like confidence when he's Superman and like act even extra meek when he's Clark Kent. It was a very good story. Um,
Sounds good.
yeah, and it goes to show how you can hurt Superman because people always like Superman's so OP, and I'm like, he's a character that's been around for almost 100 years. You think within that 100 years there haven't been villains who've almost killed him? Of course there has. But okay, the Flash. Still reading Mark Waid's run on the Flash. Completely got sucked in. It's so good. I had skipped like the first two issues in that volume because they had nothing to do. They were like what do they call them? I think it was like the 50th anniversary Flash comic because this came out in like I think that came out like the 70s or 80s. Um,
Mm.
and I just skipped that and went straight to the Wily West stuff. But then now that I finished that volume, I've gone back to the beginning so I can read all that before I jump into the second volume. But yeah, it's real good so far. So, Radiant Black. Last issue was my favorite issue. Radiant Black is this comic. I don't know if I talked about it on here with you before, but it's essentially the way the author described it and what got me to read it. I think this is the first comic book, especially indie comic, that I have been reading since it came out. Like, I've been buying every issue as they come out. Um, and essentially they describe it as like Invincible combined with Power Rangers. And
Mm.
it's not nearly as violent as Invincible. In fact, it's nowhere near as violent as Invincible.
I was gonna say, I don't think anything is as violent as Invincible. Let's be real.
Well, the boys, but that's completely different.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but yes, it's not as violent, and it is very much like a combination of Power Rangers and Invincible, and it's like Radiant Black is the main character, but there's other Radiants. There's Radiant Pink, Radiant Yellow, Radiant Red. And Radiant Red and Pink have had their own little shorter stories, but Radiant Black is like the main one. But what pulled me into it in the first place was that the main character Nathan is a writer who had like a tough time in LA and had to move back home, and it was like the very relatable like creative trying to make something brilliant while also being a superhero that got me into Radiant Black. And the latest issue deals with him returning to LA for a meeting and facing some of the baggage he left behind. It was just really good. It's the Spider-Man effect. Just really showing the difficulties of being a superhero as well as just trying to be a human. Yeah, but these last two, Static. I read the second issue. Static once again, just like Spider-Man, is experiencing the classic superhero strife of trying to live a balanced life. He's mentoring this young kid and also trying to be static at the same time, as well as school and personal life and all that. Meanwhile, in the background, there's this group of scientists that are hiring mercenaries to capture Bang Babies, which are essentially this universe's mutants. And Static's mentee is a Bang Baby, and he's like at the top of their list to capture. But this last one is so good. You should definitely check it out. It's 3 volumes. It is not volumes, issues. Is Wonder Woman Historia of the Amazons. It chronicles the origins of the Amazons, and it's so good. In the first issue, the Greek goddesses petition Zeus for aid against the injustices done to women across the world, and he denies them. So all the goddesses except Hera get together and create the first 30 Amazons, and those Amazons go on to save Hippolyta, who, it's no secret, she's the queen of the Amazons as well as Wonder Woman's mother, and they're essentially showing her origin and how she becomes the queen.
Oh wow!
And yeah, it's very, very, it's gorgeous. The art is so good. I'm mad I didn't write the name of the artist now, but I'll put their name up on screen when I edit. It's so good. But yeah, moving on to TV and film. So Lionsgate has the rights to live action Street Fighter. So I read somewhere that it was confirmed to be a movie, but then I keep hearing people say that it might not be. So I'm not sure if it's going to be a movie or a show. But personally, I would like for it to be a show. I think that with a roster full of so many interesting characters, a longer format would do them, well. I even have a whole pilot written in my head that would that would focus on Ryu and Ken, and to just give like the cliff notes. Essentially, Ryu would be like in Japan, and he would be like doing underground fighting, and the episode would start with just his daily routine. He wakes up, he trains. He goes and helps this lady at her shop, but he doesn't take payment for it, so she just gives him food. And then at the end of the night, he goes and fights underground every night, or not almost every night. But then on the second day, the person he fights is Ken, and then Ken beats him. And then Ken is rich, Ken Masters, so he's been paying to keep the dojo that they both trained at kind of like upkept. And like so that they could, still own the dojo, and it doesn't just go to the state or whatever. But Ryu just hasn't been taking care of it. He hasn't been at the dojo. He's just been in the city. And then they essentially go back to the dojo, they clean it up, and they train. And then you get their whole backstory about their master getting killed by a Kuma or whatever. It would be very. I have ideas, and I feel like the first 4 episodes, first would be Ken Ryu, second one would be Chun-Li, third one would be Cammy, and fourth one would be Guile, and those would be the main characters. And then after that, they would jump directly into the tournament. Because, it's a fighting game. It's always a tournament. But yeah, Street Fighter, I like Street Fighter. I can't wait for Street Fighter 6 comes out in June. I hope this movie's good. Street Fighter doesn't have the best track record when it comes to live action.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian. So, the episode before last, I can't remember the number of the episode, but it turned into essentially like a procedural crime drama. And it felt like an episode of the Clone Wars cartoon. And yeah, that was really fun. And it featured a couple celebrity guests, and Jack Black, Lizzo, and Christopher Lloyd, who plays Doc Brown in Back to the Future. Yeah, and the episode after that was easily the best episode of the season so far. And there were a bunch of very interesting revelations with Moff Gideon. And yeah, it was just a good episode. But honestly, this season hasn't been that good. The first 2 seasons I like a lot, but this season has been very up and down. And a lot of people criticize it because it just doesn't focus on the character that we're all here for, which is the titular Mandalorian, Din Djarin. But
Mhm.
it's what it's doing makes sense. How it's doing it is weird because it's focusing on the entire Mandalorian race, which is a race of people. But
Mhm.
and that makes sense for a show called The Mandalorian. But at the same time,
Right.
Din Djarin is the main character, and it should be showing all of this through him. But it's focusing too much on surrounding characters, and that's been making it just this season feel weird in comparison to the first two.
Mhm.
And it's I think I kind of feel like Star Wars now is falling to the trap of the MCU where they're now just trying to have things build up to a crossover rather than just
Mhm.
telling good individual stories, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully this season finale is good. Um, yeah, so I saw D&D Among Thieves. It was really good. You know, I'm keep bringing up MCU because they've been disappointing me lately. But this goes to show how you make a good generic fantasy action comedy without forcing it towards like building a big crossover. Which at least I hope they don't do that because it's D&D. Every like they 100% are going to make more movies because this movie's doing well, and it's probably not going to be the same cast every single time. They might like have cameos or something, but I feel like D&D it's probably going to be different parties and stuff every single time, but within like the same world. Or
Mhm.
maybe not. Maybe they do completely different types of campaigns every time in different worlds. That would also be interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting.
So the Marvels teaser, you've seen that trailer now.
Mhm.
What did you think?
I liked it. I liked it. Captain Marvel is actually one of the few Marvel movies that I've watched. I know that's like grave sin, whatever. I don't care. I really enjoy Captain Marvel, and so like to see a Marvel movie that I actually know the context of and can watch is super exciting. So I might actually go and see this when it comes out.
There's no Gravesend. You're not beholden to the Marvel movies.
But I know, from what I've heard on the internet, Captain Marvel is kind of the black sheep of the family for a myriad of reasons. But I enjoyed it.
It's
So
it's an overhated movie. It's definitely one of the very clear cases of sexism in the comic book community. It's not a bad movie by any means, especially compared to a lot of other movies. It's not bad at all. I also enjoy that movie immensely. People just
got you.
people are just sexist. That's it.
Yeah, that
it's
makes sense.
it's a it's a perfectly fine movie. Um,
Mm,
yeah, the trailer looks good. Looks fun. It's bringing together Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Miss Marvel with which I would definitely suggest checking out the Miss Marvel show on Disney Plus. It was one of the better Disney Plus shows. But like every Disney Plus show, towards the end it does start to get weird.
uh,
Um, but for the most part, it's pretty good. But yeah, like I've said before, I'm gonna wait for reviews. This movie comes out November 10th, so it's gonna be a while. But I'm gonna wait for reviews before I go see this movie, uh, despite just looking at it and my just having seen every Marvel movie in theaters, it makes me want to go and see it in theaters like I have every movie. But nah, it's Quantumanium. It burned me. Even
right.
though I think no, Quantumanium was definitely a worse movie than Thor: Love and Thunder. I think I can say that. Even though Thor: Love and Thunder made me angrier because I had higher expectations for it,
Mhm.
overall as a film, Quantumanium was definitely worse than Thor: Love and Thunder.
Ooh, yikes.
And that just completely made me go, yeah, no, I'm not just running to the theaters to watch these movies anymore, except for one, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because I have complete and total faith in James Gunn.
Right.
I already pre-ordered my ticket. That is the only Marvel movie where I'm going to see that. He's already proved himself twice
Mhm.
with Marvel movies specifically, and even more with the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. So
Mm,
he's proven himself. All the other movies, they haven't proven themselves, so they gotta. I'm gonna have to wait on those.
mm.
But also, Secret Invasion. What do you think about that trailer? I know that one is a bit more. You probably have less context with that one.
Y-
I mean, granted,
I-
actually, you don't. You do actually because you've seen Captain Marvel.
right. I
So you actually do have a lot of context. It's Nick Fury who is in Captain Marvel and the Skrulls who are also in Captain Marvel.
right. Yeah. It interested me a little less, but mostly because I'm not as into like the dark brooding action movies. I'm one of those people that's like I do fall asleep at movies like that pretty easily. But But I will say that I did like um I liked what they were setting up. It seemed very interesting. So if I can like watch it probably with somebody else, I'll give it a shot. But me watching on my own probably won't happen.
Yeah, it's very Nick Fury focused, kind of like political spy drama, and
Mhm.
it's very kind of like Winter Soldier esque, and Captain America: Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie, so I'm definitely excited for this and hope that it's really good and has a lot of those same elements.
Right.
But yeah, Secret Invasion, the comic, is essentially um, it's it's interesting wondering how they do it in this because they set the Skrulls up as being essentially like a race that was being discriminated against the by the Kree in Captain Marvel. So they are
Mhm.
they're the underdogs and they're for the most part good guys. But in this one, the Skrulls, they're invading Earth and disguising themselves as people, and that's how it happened in the comic. But in the comic, the Skrulls are 100% bad guys, whereas in the
Right.
MCU, it's a bit more gray. So I have a feeling it might be something along the lines of like a certain sect of the skulls that are, trying to fight
Mhm.
back against their oppressors in a more violent way type situation, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Moving on to Blue Beetle. That's one that you don't really know anything because it's an origin movie. So, what
Right.
do you think about that one?
I really like the trailer for Blue Beetle. I love cringe fail superheroes. I love them so much. Like ones where it's like, "Oh, you suck at your job so much, but I know by the end of this movie that you're going to be like amazing." Like I don't know what about that trope appeals to me so much. Maybe it's because like I don't know, just always loved movies like that. So this is definitely much must watch for me. Um yeah, it just looks super cool.
Yeah, it looks like a fun movie. My experience with Blue Beetle comes from Batman: and Brave and the Bold. First and foremost, it was the first place I ever saw him, and then also he was in season 2 of Young Justice.
Mhm.
He's a really fun character, and his powers are interesting. He's actually the third Blue Beetle. The first one, I forget his name. I always forget his name because the first one's forgettable. But the second one, Ted Cord, was essentially he was basically kind of like Batman. Um, and Watchmen, actually, the Watchmen characters are parodies of these characters that belong to a publication I can't remember the name of, but that are now owned by DC. And what was his name? Night Owl. Night Owl and the Watchmen is a parody of Blue Beetle.
Mm. Oh wow.
And what is it? Dang, I can't remember his name, but one of the characters, the dude that dies at the very beginning, is a parody of Peacemaker. Actually, funny enough.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of characters in that are just parody of other characters. Like um, Doctor Manhattan is a parody of Captain Atom, which is relatively not unknown, but not super well known DC character who's essentially like a man who's like irradiated, similar to like Doctor Manhattan, and he's like covered in this suit that holds it in, but essentially gives him powers similar to Superman.
Right.
But yeah, now we're gonna get into the Star Wars celebration. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give a brief overview. We're not gonna go too deep in detail, but we're gonna touch the surface level and discuss it a little bit. And later on, we're gonna have a much deeper discussion with Amir, which will be interesting. Amir's coming back for the Star Wars stuff. He had to. Amir's a big Star Wars fan, so we'll get there eventually. Um,
Right.
so yeah, Star Wars Celebration was a week or two ago. And most of the information I'm going to be giving I got from Star Wars Holocron on Twitter, so go give them a follow for Star Wars news and other Star Wars related content. But first, we're going to start off with the reveal of the Star Wars timeline. So they revealed the full timeline in different eras that either have already happened in film or that they'll be focusing on. And it starts with the dawn of the Jedi, which what's his name? James Mangold will be directing a movie about the origins of the Jedi and the dawning of the Force set before the Old Republic. He describes it as a biblical epic, and
Mm.
I hope that we see a world with like significantly less technology because Star Wars is a big sci-fi world. So seeing a kind of like pared down version of that takes place like centuries before the oldest timeline we had in Star Wars. Excuse me, the oldest era we had in Star Wars, which is the Old Republic, will be interesting. Um, and the next one after that is the Old Republic, which was never 100% canon until now. It's always,
Wow.
well, it's not 100% canon. Like there are certain aspects of it that they're not gonna like adapt one to one, but the Old Republic was a thing that existed through like books and video games. But after, I think it was like after Disney bought Star Wars, a lot of like the books and video game stuff became non-canon because it just made sense to do that because a lot of it kind of contradicted itself. And the Old Republic was always just up in the air, and they never touched on it in canon material. But now they will be, and that's exciting because the Old Republic is a very interesting era where there were just as many Jedi as there were, excuse me, just as many Sith as there were Jedi, which we're used to seeing way more Jedi than there are Sith. So finally being able to see a world where they stand on equal footing will be very interesting. And just after that is the complete opposite, the High Republic, where the Jedi rule the galaxy. And The show that I'm most excited for, The Acolyte, will take place during the High Republic. It will be a Disney Plus series that will take place 100 years before the Phantom Menace. Um, and we'll be telling a story from the perspective of the Sith, something that I've been wanting forever. The, the showrunner, Leslie Hidlin, said that the show was pitched as Frozen meets Kill Bill, which is a very strange way to pitch a show. But
Very.
uh,
That's interesting
th-
though.
they specifically highlight the sister relationship from Frozen and the villain being a powerful but misunderstood woman, and the martial arts and samurai aesthetic of Kill Bill. And in a lot of the panels and like interviews with the crew and cast, they essentially focus on the martial arts and the gray area of the Force, which are two of my favorite things in film and just storytelling in general. Great action and kind of like exploring a world that isn't just black and white, that isn't just the light side and the dark side, and like the in between.
Right.
Yeah, the era after that is the fall of the Jedi, which is the prequel era, um, and we've seen that. And then we have the Reign of the Empire, which is the original trilogy. Well, the Reign of the Empire isn't the original trilogy. Actually, that's in between the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, where we have shows like um, the Bad Batch, which season three will be its final season. Season two ended not too long ago, right before um, Star Wars Celebration, actually. And I like the Bad Batch. It essentially just feels like a continuation of Clone Wars in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Um, it focuses on a group of clones called the Bad Batch that were like experimental clones that have like heightened abilities compared to other clones. And the show takes place after episode three, so Order 66 happened. The Jedi are all killed, or most of them, and the clones are being decommissioned. And it's really focusing on like what happened to the clones after the Clone Wars, after they weren't needed anymore. It's a very interesting show. And I'm
Okay.
excited to see what they do with season three because they introduced a character that will undoubtedly be living far beyond this show and will probably pop up in other shows eventually. And then you have, like I said, the Age of Rebellion, which is the original trilogy, and then the New Republic, which is the era that like the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, and the Ahsoka show is taking place in. Um, so let's see what I have. Ahsoka, you watched that trailer?
I did. And while I don't know much about Star Wars, I was a Star Trek kid growing up. I grew up in a Star Trek household. So my knowledge of Star Wars is very limited. However, I did grow up on the Clone Wars cartoon, and Ashoka was my first cartoon crush, or one of them anyway. I love her. And despite me not knowing, like I said, much about Star Wars, I'm watching the show.
Okay,
Point blank
good.
period.
If you're gonna
I'm
watch,
watching it.
see, look, the fact that you say you're gonna watch this show and you said you like the Clone Wars, all leads me to say you should not watch the show if you don't watch Rebels first
Got you. Okay.
because it's picking up from a lot of stories that are from Rebels and a lot of characters from Rebels. This is essentially like a season five of Rebels in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
So it's bringing a lot of stuff from Rebels into the show. Essentially, if Mandalorian is a western, Ahsoka is going to be a samurai film, and
Oh, nice.
so Mary Elizabeth Winstead will be playing a live action Hera. Hera is a character from Rebels. Um, Natasha Liu Bordizzo is playing Sabine Wren, another character from Rebels, and 100% Zeb is coming back as Steve Bloom, because like I mentioned before, he showed up in The Mandalorian, and
Mhm.
they didn't make this giant CGI alien just that looked amazing just for him to only show up in as a cameo in one episode of Mandalorian. He's going to be in the show,
Right.
especially if all the other members of his crew are also in the show. um, but yeah, Rosario Dawson says that it will follow her character looking for someone, and because I want you to watch Rebels, I'm not going to say what that's hinting at. So
Okay.
you'll just have to watch the show to find out. If you know, you know.
Uh,
Like I said, we'll go into more detail with Amir because Amir has watched all the Rebels.
okay.
I haven't watched all the Rebels, but I know all that happens, and I'll finish it probably by the time me and Amir have that discussion. Uh, what do we have after that? We have that was the Age of the New Republic. Okay, then we have Rise of the First Order, which is not necessarily. It's. I'm trying to think of what if we have any pieces of media that have already covered that. I would say that what happens between whatever is happening at the end of this era with Mandalorian and Ahsoka. And oh my god, hold on, there's a bug on my wall. I need to murder it.
Oh no.
It scared the hell out of me. It disappeared behind my shelf. I'm gonna sit back down, but that scared me. It was like one of those millipedes or whatever, and
Oh.
it was moving so fast. Hold on,
Ugh.
let me grab a shoe real quick and sit it next to me.
Okay.
That scared the life out of me. So that would take place between like wherever this era, the New Republic era, ends, and towards like the end of the sequel trilogy. And it seems like Ahsoka show might be leading into that because it's a lot of what's happening in the Mandalorian right now is essentially leading into how the First Order, which is essentially a new version of the Empire, essentially comes back into power, which is what happens in the sequel trilogy, and don't fully take over the universe, but they start their process of. So, I'm mentioning like the end of the what's happening at the end of with the Mandalorian and Ahsoka. Dave Filoni, the creator and like director of the Clone Wars, and one of the creators of Mandalorian, is directing a live action Star Wars film,
Oh wow.
and it will be set between episodes 7 and 8, and it will be culminating. Events for plot threads in the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and other Disney Plus shows within that time frame. And the movie will draw upon legends and expanded universe material and tell the story of an epic battle. They say the extended universe story it's clearly pulling from the most is Heir to the Empire,
Mhm.
and a summary for Heir to the Empire from Star Wars Wiki is that 5 years after the Death Star was destroyed and Darth Vader and the Empire were defeated, the galaxy is struggling to heal the wounds of the war. Princess Leia and Han Solo are married and expecting twins, and Luke Skywalker has become the first in a long-awaited line of new Jedi Knights. But thousands of light years away, the last of the Emperor's warlords, the brilliant and deadly Grand Admiral Thrawn has taken command of the shattered Imperial fleet, readied it for war and pointed at the fragile heart of the New Republic. For his dark warrior has made two vital discoveries that could destroy everything the courageous men and women of the Rebel Alliance have fought so hard to create. So Grand Admiral Thrawn is a character that shows up in Rebels, and it's seemingly going to be the main villain of the Ahsoka series. So, yeah, that's what they'll be pulling on for that. But, like I said before, whatever happens after that and up towards the end of the sequel movies would be the rise of the First Order. And then we're getting into the New Jedi Order, which would be Star Wars Episode 10. Miss Marvel director Charmin Obaid-Chinoy will direct a new movie about the rise of the Jedi Order after the rise of Skywalker. Daisy Ridley is back as Rey, and Rey will be the Jedi Master leading a new order in an set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, which is a big time skip. I feel like,
Yeah.
I think they pick up a little bit sooner, but I feel like it makes sense. So I have my problems with the sequel trilogy, but the characters and actors were not one of them, and I'm excited to see Daisy Ridley return as Rey and see more of Rey's story. I hope that John Boyega returns as Finn, because Finn, there was a lot they were supposed to do with Finn that they just
Didn't.
didn't because of reasons that I won't get into now. But after how horribly the fans treated him and Kelly Marie Tran, who played Rose in The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't come back. But I would like for them to, if they feel comfortable doing so.
Right.
And I hope that somehow, if possible, the fan base online will have become a better place by the time this film releases, and just learns how to treat people better.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel like this time skip does, however, leave the door open for an animated series that takes place in between those 15 years, um, and explores more of the galaxy within that time frame, which would be I feel like very fun, Clone Wars type series,
Hmm.
where that really explores the galaxy in between like episodes 2 and 3, and doesn't just focus on like Obi-Wan and Anakin and Padme, but also focus on a bunch of different characters, including clones and various other aliens.
Right.
But yeah, that's well, that's not all I got actually. A few more things that are just strewn about that didn't necessarily fit in the timeline. Skeleton Crew. I'm not sure where this one fits, but Skeleton Crew is a story about a group of kids in the Star Wars galaxy who go on an adventure that is more than they can handle, and it's described as having kind of like Goonies vibes. I've never seen the Goonies. I know what it's about, but um, yeah, and all I really know about is that Jude Law is playing a Jedi, and he'll be like leading a bunch of kids, and yeah, sounds interesting. It doesn't interest me that much, but we'll see when we like see a trailer or something like that. It's Star Wars, so I'll probably be checking it out, but maybe not. Maybe it just won't be my thing. Star Wars Visions. I also sent you a trailer for that. Visions season 2.
Hmm.
Um, so Visions is an animated anthology series. First season was really fun. They had an episode done by Studio Trigger that was pretty good. I think they might have had 2 episodes by Trigger actually. But yeah, like one that really stuck out to me in that trailer was this one that was animated in a very kind of like almost Clone Wars style, maybe even more similar to the most recent trailer we saw for TMNT Mutant Mayhem, where the
Hmm.
line the it looks clearly like 3D models with it's back on the wall,
Oh no.
but it's sitting still. But I know it's quick, so I have to be quick. Hold on,
Right.
give me a second. Oh no, it's moving.
Oh no.
I hate everything about this. Got him.
Yay!
From Star Wars Celebration. Have you seen any of the trailers or the gameplay? I should have sent you the final trailer, because the final trailer for Star Wars Jedi Survivor is really good. It looked
I think I didn't see the trailer for the gameplay, but I did see the Steam listing question mark because I was just on Steam looking at Papa's recently at Deluxe. But so I've heard of it. I just haven't checked it out. I might though.
yeah, that comes out at the very end of this month, and I'm excited for that game.
Mm,
It looks good. It looks like a major improvement over Fallen Order. It looks like it'll be a good game.
mm, mm.
But yeah, that's all I got for Star Wars. All I gotta say is you gotta love Star Wars, man. Waxes and wanes in terms of quality, but the journey leading up to these announcements and the eventual releases are always hype and fun, no matter the quality of the final product. And when a project is good, it's damn good. And at the end of the day,
Right.
we all love Star Wars, and we should treat each other with respect and kindness, no matter our opinions about any particular project. And we definitely shouldn't be attacking people for any reason whatsoever. You can criticize things without attacking people personally. Also, the thing I want to mention is when a lot of people don't like something and are talking about what they don't like about it, I think you got to have the wherewithal to realize that you won't be adding anything new. So it's not worth you adding your negative opinion on top of everybody else's. I think it's perfectly fine to talk about things you don't like, but when what you're going to say you don't like is the same thing everybody's saying they don't like, I think there's no point for you to be the thousandth person to say that you don't like that thing.
Right.
I think sometimes you have to just read the comments and not add your comment, because you're just going to be reading a bunch of comments that's already saying what you want to say. So they've got the message. You're not going to help push it any further. They've got it. Trust me, they've got it. They've
Right.
heard everyone's opinions already. They don't need yours on top of it. But if you do feel like you have something unique to say and you don't see people comment it, go ahead. But if you don't say anything.
Right.
I'll end it there. Just be nice people. we're gonna go on to the video game section.
Yay.
So, first things first, PlayStation accessibility tags. So, I'm gonna read this quote from the PlayStation blog, which says, "With accessibility tags, you'll be able to easily see if the game you want to play features the accessibility options you're looking for. Here's a sample of the more than 50 accessibility tags available for game developers to choose from across 6 categories. Visual accessibility features such as clear text, large text, color alternatives, audio cues, and directional audio indicators. Audio features such as volume controls, mono audio, screen reader, and visual cue alternatives. Subtitle and caption options, including subtitle size, clear captions, and large captions. Control options, including button remapping, thumbstick sensitivity, and ability to play without button holds, or like rapid button presses. Like a lot of games have that now, where like because some people their motor functions just don't allow them to tap a button repeatedly, or maybe you have like carpal tunnel and it's just really bad on your hands. So it would be better to just hold the button than tap it repeatedly.
Right.
Um, gameplay options like the difficulty settings, being able to skip puzzles, simplified quick time events, and the speed of the game itself, and online communication options such as text to voice chat, transcription, and ping communications. So yeah, this is dope. I just felt like I should bring this up and let you know about this. It's really interesting. PlayStation's really doubling down on accessibility in their games.
And which is really exciting. You know what I mean? It's my whole thing. Like I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's just great to have the option to look up specifically if a game has the accessibility features that a person needs.
Right.
So we have two more things. We're going to start with the Sega leaks. So,
Mm.
a leaked video featuring what looks like a Persona 3 remake, um, Sonic Frontiers with higher graphic fidelity, and a new Jet Set Radio, was leaked.
Ooh.
And according to Gameatu, while they can't confirm the legitimacy of the video, they believe that a Persona 3 remake has been in the works for several years now. Also, reports from Bloomberg last year stated that a new big budget Jet Set Radio title was in the works at Sega. And there was also a Persona 3 remake website registered by Sega.
Mm.
So, this is all seeming likely. At the very least, like the Sonic Frontiers one, it seems like it was just like um, essentially what they showed to their investors when they were in the process of making that game to begin with. So
Right.
this isn't like upres Sonic Frontiers or anything. This was just from the original Sonic Frontiers. But the other two are from other games. That seems very likely that they're happening.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wish all these leaks would have happened before I bought Persona 3 Portable for my Switch. I was gonna buy it anyway, but you know,
Yeah, there are some games that I like. I prefer to play the remake of, like the Resident Evil games. Like there's the thing is Resident Evil 1 has actually been remade before for like GameCube, and the original one was on the first PlayStation. Um,
right?
but it still has the tank controls and the fixed camera. So they're
Mm.
100% gonna like I've said it before. Like if they're gonna, it feels like they're 100% gonna remake Resident Evil 5. But if they're
Mm.
gonna do that, they're gonna have to remake Resident Evil 1 first because the main character of Resident Evil 5 is Chris, who in the 2, 3, and 4 remakes, you don't know who Chris is if those are the only Resident Evil games you played. Maybe if you
Right.
play Resident Evil 8, you have an idea who Chris is, but he wasn't the main character. He was a side character in that game. Um,
Right.
and like you damn sure don't know who Wesker is.
For real.
So yeah, they would have to remake the first game before they remake the fifth game. And like
Mm.
Resident Evil franchise is a game I would prefer to play in remakes, but then you have Metal Gear where I'm fully invested in playing every single Metal Gear game, the original versions, before playing the remakes.
Of course.
Which it feels like there have been rumors that a Resident Evil 3 remake is gonna be coming out soon. But like Persona, outside of Persona 5, I'm not that interested in Persona. So if they remake 3, they're probably gonna eventually remake 4. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
excited to check out those games and like with modern controls, taking stuff,
Right.
stuff from Persona 5 and adding it to those older games.
As a person who's beaten Persona 3 like 6 times, I'm very excited. That game sucks. Like when I say it sucks, I mean it sucks affectionately. Like it's very, you can tell it came out in the time period that it did. Like it's so dated compared to Persona 5. Like you can't control your other party members. They have AI. Um, and like you can't control your party members. You can only go so many pieces on the map. Like Persona 3 has so many issues, but I love it. It's so near and dear to me. So to have it remade and have it be more accessible to people, super exciting. Um, and it saves me having to, because I don't know, I just it's despite all its flaws and despite it being a very like dated kind of bare bones game, I enjoy replaying it. But now I'll enjoy it even more with this remake allegedly because it'll be fun this time.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. So, last but not least, Nintendo released the final trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm gonna be real with you.
Okay.
My convictions wavered. Okay, no,
Oh no.
nothing has made me want to buy a Switch OLED and bulldoze through the first Breath of the Wild like this trailer. Um,
Mm,
so even after I went back to like deciding, okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm a, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. I went back to my original idea. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get it. They almost had me. They almost had me, but I'm not gonna get it.
mm,
And
mm.
I'm gonna just wait for the new one. But for a second, I was gonna be like, okay, but I'm gonna play Tears of the Kingdom first. But I was like, no, I can't do this. I can't let them trick me. Okay, I gotta wait for the next console, and I gotta play Breath of the Wild first. They almost had me. Now, here's the thing though, I cannot make any promises about not watching people play it because I got to.
Right,
So
right.
I'm
Uh,
for sure gonna exploit myself. I did the same thing with Breath of the Wild because I didn't know when I was gonna be able to play that because that came out when I was in high school. So I was broke. So, but now that I have
right,
money and I have the potential to get a Switch and get Breath of the Wild and get Tears of the Kingdom, um, it's different now because it's like I know I'm gonna get it eventually.
right. It's just like
But
how soon
but
is eventually.
but we don't know when that next console's coming out. So I can't like if I wanted to, I could try to avoid it. But I don't know if I want to.
That's real.
The trailer was so good. The music, oh my god, it was so good.
See me, I'm fully invested. Like I've had my Switch and for years now, and it is so dearly beloved to me because it's a Christmas present. As soon as the Tears of the Kingdom Switch releases, I'm getting it.
Wow, what are you gonna do with the whole one?
I'm gonna give it to my girlfriend. So we can play video games together because she's always wanted a Switch, but and her brother had one. It broke. So yeah, and he doesn't even play it. So I'm like, I'll give you mine while I'm on the fancy new Zelda one. Eehee eehee.
Yeah, I was like, they almost had me. I saw that Switch and I was like, ooh, ooh.
It's gorgeous. I missed out on the Animal Crossing one because I was broken. I didn't have a job at that point. Now I have a job and adult money to spend. So that Tears of the Kingdom Edition Switch is mine.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about what we saw in the trailer. So there were several instances in this trailer where we saw NPCs fighting each other alongside Link. Excuse me. That leads a lot of people to assuming that we may be like recruiting companions along our journey to fight beside us. But also one of the moments where they show like Sidon fighting alongside Link, it does look like that might be something similar to like the Divine Beast boss fights where like you have one of the champion descendants fight alongside you because
Right.
in the background it looks like it's like a kind of like a dungeon but on one of the floating islands,
Mm.
but a dungeon that's specifically water related. So it might just be
Yeah.
you don't necessarily recruit people and bring them alongside you, or at least not the champions, and they just come and follow you during those specific story beats like they did in Breath of the Wild. But either way, it looks like at least the like other NPCs, based on certain shots from the trailer, you might be able to like recruit them and have them fight alongside you, which is very interesting because that means that there's still a lot of stuff they just aren't showing us. And this is the last trailer, so we're not going to see anything until the game comes out, which is relatively soon.
Right.
Um, but he also we also saw some things that look like the titular Tears of the Kingdom. So in
Yay.
one of the first few trailers, these things appeared in a mural, and it was seven of them. And it looks like we see six of them in this trailer. Sidon has one on his glove. Uh, Tylon has one on his what do you call it? Talon.
Mm.
Uh, Riju is wearing one as an earring. It's hard to see, but people went through these trailers and found it.
Right.
And Ganon has one in his forehead. The last two, I assume, that we saw in the trailer are actually the same one because we saw Zelda have one in her hand, but also wear it around her neck, and then we saw another character also wearing the same one around her neck. So
Mm.
People are assuming that's like either from a flashback of like a previous incarnation of the of Hylia, or maybe it is just actually Hylia. Who knows?
Yeah, which would be super cool.
But
Heard so much about her.
yeah,
Have yet to see her, actually.
yeah. Uh, so the only like champion we didn't see was the Goron one. But in the part where all the champions are like running beside each other, you do see like one of the Goron weapons like in the corner. So they're there. We just don't know who it is. So it seems like maybe the one from the last game might have like died or something.
Oh no.
But a lot of people also assuming that based on the colors of the tiers, Sidon has a blue one, Riju has like a amber one, and Tylon has a green one. All representing the colors of their various species and
Right.
elements, and the Goron one will probably be red, and the one in Ganon's head is red, so he might have killed the Goron and stole it.
Oh, that's crazy.
Or maybe he didn't kill him and he just like stole it before it ever got to him, and now they're trying to like get it back.
Right, right.
But yeah, and there's probably gonna be one more for Link, because there's actually a shot of another character that is supposedly probably a Zonai, like touching Zelda's shoulder, and they have one like on the back of their palm as well.
Right.
And I have a feeling I didn't hear anybody make this assumption, but I think that is might be like the previous incarnation of the champion or the hero. I mean,
Yeah, it makes sense.
and that, but he's a Zonai, so it might show that they don't just reincarnate as Hylians,
Right.
both Zelda and Link, which would be interesting. But also in another shot, because again, people went frame by frame in these, and I watched a couple of videos. In the shot where they showed the Zonai's face, which it might not be the same Zonai, but they show one of the Zonai's face. In the background, you see that there are people with tears, but they don't look like the same like current champions. So, supposedly that is like a flashback showing something that happened in the past of like the previous champions fighting against Ganondorf before he got sealed away or something like that. And those might be the people that actually sealed him away the first time.
Right.
And people are assuming that Zelda went back into the past when she fell down that hole, which
Yeah.
I feel like is probably true.
Yeah, it would make sense.
Because this wouldn't be the first time Zelda's played around with time.
Right, right.
So yeah, it looked good. It looks so good.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see all the Triforce holders in one game again. It feels like it's been forever. Like actually,
It's been
in one.
17 years
Yeah.
since we've
Yeah.
seen Ganondorf, Zelda, and Link together in a game.
Right. It's like all this lore about they're the holders of the Triforce and they barely appear in games together. This is so refreshing and I am so excited.
Finally get to see rehydrated Ganon. He finally drunk some water.
I love that they call him that. I love it so dearly.
But yeah, and like the official like post art they showed of Ganon, he had like a samurai sword, and that boss fight is gonna be lit.
Oh yeah.
And they had a shot that showed Ganon, but he looked different, and his hair was like glowing, and it was like people said it looks like Demise. I think that it's still Ganon because if you look at his clothes, it's literally the exact same clothes, but that's probably like his transformation, and his transformation
Right.
makes him look more like Demise, which I feel like makes sense.
Yeah.
Either that or like Demise just fully takes control of Ganon somehow, and that would be interesting. Because like you said, you talk about the very confusing timeline that was never really meant to make sense in the first place. But Skyward Sword was retroactively made the first game in the timeline, and Breath of the Wild was meant to be the last. So I
Right.
think what they're doing actually with Breath of the Wild is that they're from this point on they might try and have a cohesive timeline,
Oh wow, that'd be exciting.
since this is being called out by the people making the game as like the end of the timeline. They're probably going to go from this point on. Other times they obviously didn't. They weren't thinking about making a cohesive timeline. They were just making good games. So now they're
Right.
probably going to like, let's try to actually make a cohesive timeline.
Something that makes sense. I hope so, because as you heard, my complaints about it earlier.
Yeah, I want the next Zelda game to star Zelda, and for her to be the main playable character.
It is her legend.
The game's called The Legend of Zelda, and she's always just like Princess Peach. Link, come save me. Your princess is in another castle.
Right.
let Zelda actually be a playable character.
I'm saying that's even if she's in the game to begin with, because in The first one that come to mind was Oracle of Agents or Oracle Seasons, which she was in air quotes, but she wasn't the focus. And it's like, come on now.
Yeah, but I also have an idea for a Zelda game where you play as Ganon, but Ganon's a good guy this time. So my idea is that, you know, let's say it gets to a point to where people are aware that like Ganon tends to be reborn and like the only male Gerudo. Um,
Mm.
so they just started killing male Gerudos when they were born.
Oh yikes.
But then at some point, one of the Gerudo is just like, no, we can't just murder these babies, and like takes the baby and runs off, and
Mm.
like raises him. So he turns out to be a decent person, but Demise is still like in there somewhere. But Demise
Right.
has a different plan from usual, and what he's gonna do is he's gonna put Ganon in a situation where people people know that he's probably the evil Ganondorf. So when they when he forces him to reveal himself, they send in Link and Zelda, but Demise like takes over Link's body, and Link becomes the villain, and Ganon has to work with Zelda to stop Link, and in the end they're gonna have to kill Link because there's no
Oh
other way to stop him. And I feel like that would just be very interesting to flip the script and have Ganon be the main playable character and be the hero.
yeah,
Yeah.
be really fun.
But yeah, I want someone other than Link to be the main character.
For real. Hyrule Warriors doesn't count.
Yeah.
Hyrule Warriors does not count.
But yeah, that's all I got. Um, so
Yeah, I don't have anything either. I'm just excited about Zelda now.
yeah,
Like go replay Link Between Worlds. That one's my favorite.
yeah.
It's a bad rep, but it's a good game.
Um, you can find my ads below me. You can find Aiara's at below them. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and to click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post. Peace.